The public that are here, pleasure to see a number of people. I'm going to call for apologies first, and we have Councillor Collins, Filipino and Councillor Hulse, who's on council business. Member Taiperi is not here today, but we have Tony coming in, stepping in, thank you, and Councillor Mike Lee for lateness. So could someone please move? Yep.
The Mayor and I have to leave at 11:15.
11:15, okay, for early departure, or maybe we may finish by then, who knows? So,
with strong chairmanship.
so Desley's moved the apologies, seconded by Councillor Cooper. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any declarations of interest? No minutes to confirm, and there are no petitions. But before we have public input, just going to be a very brief introduction on behalf of Desley and myself. Not going to say a lot, just say that we intend to run a fairly tight ship, and I'm not meaning so much in the meetings. I'd like to think the meetings are fairly friendly and cordial, and to be quite honest, a good meeting is one when we don't have to refer to standing orders. So
Absolutely.
if we can pull that off, that would be an achievement. It's always my goal, I will say. You can always test me, I don't know them that well, but I can certainly beef up quite easily if things get difficult. But just generally, we're, the Deputy Chair and myself are coming from having the responsibility for this committee is we do more than aware that we have a major gap in our funding, basically 500 million a year, so we're going to have to run a very tight ship with efficiencies, business cases, etc. to do what we can to plug that before we have some real new revenue stream coming on board to try and just bridge that gap in order to essentially just bring transport up to date. And obviously we have issues with housing, but clearly it's transport is the key thing. So without further ado, we'll ask Penny to come up. Welcome, Penny. 5 minutes, and you've sent some pretty 5 points there. And if you want to go through all 5 of them, you've got a minute each on each one, basically.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, I'd just like to remind the Finance and Performance Committee of your terms of reference and your responsibilities. The purpose of the committee is to A, control and review expenditure across the Auckland Council Group to improve value for money. B, to monitor the overall financial management and performance of the Council parent organisation and the Auckland Council Group. C, make financial decisions required outside the annual budgeting process. Mayor and councillors, before you actually were sworn in, you may recall that I actually sent an open letter to Mayor Phil Goff on the 13th of October, where again I raised the issue about the need for transparency and accountability, particularly relating to spending of public rates money on private sector consultants and contractors. And in my considered opinion, you cannot set the upcoming Auckland Council budget without first finding out where exactly these above-mentioned public rates monies are being spent. So what I want to formally table at this meeting is that prior to any consultation for any Auckland Council planning documents regarding the spending of public monies on private sector consultants and contractors, that on the front page of the websites of Auckland Council and all Auckland Council controlled organisations, under the heading Procurement Awarded Contracts, you provide the following information and make it accessible for public scrutiny. The unique contract number, the name of the consultant or contractor, a brief description of the scope of the contract start-finish dates, the exact dollar value of each and every contract, including those subcontracted, and how the contract was awarded by direct appointment or public tender. You know this is not the first time I have asked for this information to be provided. Again, what concerns me, and I have had a quick look at the governance manual for substantial CCOs, I see no reference whatsoever to the Public Records Act 2005, which is pivotal to ensure transparency. It always, in my view, comes back to the underpinning rule of law. What is the legislation that governs what you and CCOs are supposed to be doing. And what I want to see is this gap is filled. Don't try to look at more revenue streams. Look at where you are spending ratepayers' money now. Because international research, which I have referred to before, proves that contracting out is bad business and is actually twice as expensive as in-house service provision. What I wish to do is to table that open letter that I sent in October. I want this attached to the minutes, and I also want this attached to the minutes. Now, as far as spending on CCOs, underpinning legislation. Where is the underpinning legislation that covers the statutory duties of ATED, Auckland Tourism, Events and Economic Development? Where it's not under the Local Government Auckland Council Act 2009, which sets out the statutory duties of Auckland Transport, which are not being followed, by the way, and Watercare, but not ATED. Why on earth have we got this piggy in the middle layer of people concerned with this role, when surely it's a central government task, tourism, and regional facilities management? Is there not an overlap there? Perhaps rather than looking at a hotel tax, you could look at getting rid of ATED, because what function is it performing which cannot already be covered by existing bodies? The whole issue of...
You have a minute to go.
Okay. As far as Auckland Transport is concerned, I refer you again to the underpinning legislation, which is the Local Government Auckland Council Act 2009, particularly sections 39 and 40, makes all the right noises about value for money, transparency, etc. We still don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars of public rates money is being spent on subsidies of private passenger transport. And what I intend to take up is the call for Auckland Transport to become public again, in-house, cutting out all these private providers of the 10 private bus companies, the 4 private ferries, and the French multinational operating and managing the trains. Let's look at value for money. And I don't believe that, sorry, Mayor, but your consultation document, if you don't have...
Can you wrap up?
Okay, the information that shows where rates monies are being spent, in my view, you are not carrying out your due diligence and you're not upholding that oath that you swore to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Are there any questions of Ms. Bright? Yes, Wayne.
Sure.
Councillor Walker, I've got to get used to that. No, yes.
Happy either way. Happy either way, Ross. Just in terms of your seeking information around the contracts and
Yes.
so on, Penny, are there some other councils, and they don't have to be New Zealand councils, that you could refer to that offer that level of transparency?
Well, Auckland Transport itself gives most of that information, as I've explained before, but only contracts worth more than $50,000 and not contracts which are subcontracted, and most of the capital works is subcontracted. So we've already got a template there. It just doesn't provide enough detail. And either you, as in your capacity as governing body, instruct the CEO to make sure that information is available, or you make that decision yourselves. But in my view, that is your statutory duty. Please do your job. Thank you.
So just a further question that goes to that. So with with contracts over 50,000, we know who is the contractor, but we don't know what it's for. That's part of it, right?
Apparently all of that work for capital works is subcontracted. All we know is the contractor, and this is the layer of private piggies in the middle clipping the ticket. They don't actually perform the work, because it's the subcontractor with the poor old boots and overalls, probably not even making the living wage, actually do the work, but the money is being creamed off by people in the middle who are doing contract management and parcelling the work out without actually getting their hands dirty.
So just to clarify that, just remember the Privacy Act actually protects individuals and sole traders for anything under 100k. So, Councillor Casey.
Well, Penny, today we're discussing the Mayor's budget proposal, one of which is a visitor levy which may fund all or some of ATED's work. What's your position on that?
I keep coming back to the spending, rather than looking at getting in additional flows of revenue. Please look at where the money's being spent. And I think there's massive scope for tightening up, but you can't do line by line accounting. You can't check for cost effectiveness unless you know exactly where the costs fall. I have given you on numerous occasions the very simple solution to this, and I'm not budging until we finally get that information, because that is my understanding of the Public Records Act, Section 17, and that's even been stated by a judge in the High Court that the council most definitely does have statutory obligations under Section 17 of the Public Records Act. Yeah. Just do it.
Any other questions of...
I'll move, thanks.
Cathy would like to move, thank Penny for her presentation.
I'm happy to second.
Second it? Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Thank you, Penny.
Aye.
Aye.
Right, well, we have no